Alright, so let's get started. We're just going to look at Fusion 360 here. We're going to get some basics in today. We don't want to do anything super complicated, but I do want to explain how this works and the basics of movement, and we're going to create a short or a small object really quickly. So real quick, if you don't have a mouse, get a mouse. Don't use your trackpad if you have a laptop. It's way too complicated. I know you can do all kinds of stuff with the trackpad. Fusion 360 doesn't like touchscreens, so grab a mouse if you can find one. All right, going forward. So we're going to learn to use our visibility here. So if we look at the top right, we have a cool cube. If we click on the cube, click on the right side, we move to the right side. If we click on the corner, we move to the corner. And if we get our orientation all messed up, we can always click the home button and go back to this original view right here. With that being said, if you have a mouse, which you should, and you hold down the middle mouse button, you will pan left and right, up and down. If you hold down the shift button and hit the middle mouse button, you will rotate around whatever object that you are looking at. If you need to do anything else, your middle mouse button will go in and out. It will zoom where your mouse is. If you zoom where your mouse is over here, you will zoom into there. If you zoom out, you will zoom out from that location. I know a lot of people get confused and wondering why in the world their object is moving away from them, but it's just wherever your mouse is wherever your zoom will go. All right, so real quick right here on the left, I know some of you, whenever you first start this program, you'll have something here on the left, this panel. I have a lot of stuff and a lot of different things and a lot of different projects and a lot of different teams here. If you're also in an FRC team, make sure that you create a folder that you can share with everybody on your team, and you can share all your projects there. So I'm not going to deal with this at the moment. Just know that when you save your object, it will go here. With that being said, we're going to go from left to right. If you're an Office or a Google product user, you understand that everything starts from the left top corner and goes to the right. On the far left top corner is our saves. If we don't need to click on our saves, the next thing is our files. So new design, a new drawing, all of those different things here. We're going to make a new design, but it's already here. And save. The first thing you should do is save. Location, so that FRC team, I'm not going to do it there. I'm going to go to, I'll put it in one of my folder. I'm just going to call this first for whatever reason. All right, now that I have it, I am saved, so everything that I do from now on will automatically save, any change, anything like that. Keep going down, so we're finished with the save and the undo and redo here. You know what that means. We have design, we have generative design, which don't start fooling with that until you get there. You might actually have to pay for that, I'm not sure. Render, animation, simulation, manufacture, and drawing. We'll get to all of these eventually, but today we're going to do a basic design. So since we're already at design, we can go to the right. So we have create sketch, extrude, revolve, hole, rectangular pattern, create form. So we're going to obviously start at the first one, which is create sketch, but let's go ahead and talk about all these other things. So this is under the create tab. And all of these things are here under create, which means that if we want to create something, we're going to click on the create tab. If we've already created something, which let's ignore this automate for now. I think this is pretty new. But we are going to go to the modify. So if we've already created something, we have the modify tab, which means we can modify whatever we've created. And all these different options here, and we'll get to that in just a second. Assemble, so if we have multiple objects that we have created and we've already modified, then we can assemble them, put them together. Configure, construct, this is something we'll talk about in a second. Inspect, so that we can look at our objects that we've already created and make some, well, hopefully we're not going to make this type of complicated analysis for an FRC team, but you never know. Insert, so we can insert objects like pictures. So if we're trying to design an object that we know what it looks like, we can insert a picture and we can design the object based off of that. All right, going forward, so let's go back. So we are going to create something, but real quick, let's look at our browser here. So our browser can go back and forth. So if you have a small monitor, you might want to shrink this down. Just like some crazy people leave this open all the time, go ahead and close it so that you can keep that that real estate. You can use that real estate. So I have my project. My project is named first. It's first v1. So I only have one version of this. The document settings. Inside of document settings, we have the unit. So some of you people use inches. Some of you people are going to use millimeters. Make sure you select that at the very beginning. It's kind of important because if one student is using inches and one student is using millimeters, guess what? Stuff won't fit together, but that's okay. We have different views. So if you like a particular view and you want to save a view, you can do that. That is fully possible. I'm not really sure how we can do that. Oh, we can make a new view here. And we can probably save it if we try. So if you want to do that, you can go ahead and do that whenever you get that option. And then we have an orientation. So we can look at our X, Y, and Z different planes here, right? If I select these so that we can see them whenever we get to that point. All right, so let's go back up to here. These two things, once you've configured this to the first time, you never really need to do it again. So we're going to go back up to create. We're going to create a sketch. So before I talk about it, or before we actually do this, we'll go ahead and click on it. Look, we can put it on the these three different axes, right? So our Z plane on this axis, on our Y axis, our X axis, and then we have the actual base right here. So I want you to think about this as if you were going to make something on a table. So if we put it here on the right side, we'll be looking at the right. So if we look at our cube on the top right, says that we are looking on the right. If we move it to this direction, we are looking at the front or the left side, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to make it right here, the top. So we're looking down, like we're looking down on a piece of paper. So now I'm looking down. I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see how this looks. I'm looking like I'm looking on a piece of paper. And that's what I want to do right here. I want to design something from the ground up, right? So my orientation is the top orientation looking down. All right, so you've probably noticed by now that once you've clicked on the sketch or the drawing, that, well, I guess it's not a drawing, but it is a sketch. So if you clicked on the sketch, we have a whole nother set of things. So again, we have create and we have modify, we have constraints and configure, okay? So we're gonna start on the top left, right? So we're gonna create something. We can't modify something if we haven't created it yet. We have this center point here. This is the zero, or the origin of our drawing here. So we've got line, rectangular, some fit point splines, which we'll probably not touch for a very long time. And a bunch of other different things here if we click down here. Now I'm going to make a nail today. Usually most people probably make like a cube or something basic, but let's make a nail. It's going to be a really large one. It's not going to be realistic, so it doesn't really matter about size. It's just going to be about the shape. So real quick, I'm going too fast. I'm doing without talking. So we're going to click create. Now you can go down to circle, and there are a bunch of different types of circles to make. We are going to be making it on the origin point. So we're going to be doing a center diameter circle. I believe that is the default one up here. You can edit this if you want to, but do that on your own time. All right, so I'm going to click the center point circle. I'm going to click it and I'm going to drag it out. Now it's really difficult to get whole numbers whenever you do this. So you have two methods here. So you can either just click, and now we have a blue unconstrained circle on this origin, which is constrained, I believe. And so I can move it up and down, all that good stuff. And I know a lot of my FRC team students get really frustrated when people do not constrain their objects, so you can do this. So if someone accidentally clicks on the circle, it will change the object size. And if you have a bunch of people working on one project, that's not good, right? So that's one way of doing it, is just clicking. Another way of doing it is clicking and typing it out. So if I want this to be 10 inches, I'll press 10, type out 10, and then I can press enter or click away, and it will go to exactly 10 inches. Now, it is constrained. So if I try to move it, it is constrained here, and it is constrained here. It is saying that we are, our dimensions are 10, so we cannot change that. Now, if I do want to change that, I can delete it, and now we are back to square one, where we did not type anything out. Now, if you want to do this, we can go up to here to modify. Sorry, we go to create. Oh, where is it? Good grief. Inspect, measure, is it I? It's the shortcut for it is D, so we're just going to press D. Oh, there it is right here. Sketch dimension. All right, so under create, right here, sketch dimension. If I click the circle, it will now tell me what it is. and I can go ahead and type it out again. All right, so there we go. 10. Beautiful. So now that we have a circle, we have it sketched out. We know exactly what it is, and we know where the point of origin is for this circle. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my top orientation. Remember, if you want to rotate, it is Shift and middle mouse button. If you want to pan, it is just middle mouse button. So and remember, you can click the top right to go ahead and get back to that position, that orientation. All right, so we have our circle. We're going to extrude it. Remember, we're making a nail today. I don't know why we're making a nail, but that's what we're going to do. I'm going to Shift and middle mouse button to move my pan my view here, and I'm going to make it go up a little bit. So because this is a 10-inch nail, which is pretty crazy, we're going to make it, let's say, I don't know, half an inch. So 0.5. All right, that doesn't look too bad. So now we have the base of the nail. We're going to do the next thing. So if you remember, we're going to start always from the top left. So we have our object here. If we want to modify this object, yeah, let's go ahead and modify this object. Let's go through the whole process, right? So we created our object. We created it with a sketch, and we extruded it. And I didn't talk about extrusion, so let's go back from that. So we have our sketch, and we want to extrude it. So we're going to go back up here to create. So the sketch has been created, which is the first one. The object has not. So we're going to create the sketch by extruding it, right? We have all of these different options here that we can use to create different objects. Of course, there are boxes and cylinders and spheres that we could have just created, but we're not going to do that today. So we're going to extrude. So if I click extrude here and I highlight this object, it will then come up with a new window, which we can edit quite a few different things. Again, always everything is from top left to right. We are going to do a normal extrude, not a thin extrude. We have already selected the profile plane. We have the start location of this profile that we're going to start here. If we change the profile, we can have it offset from an object. We're not going to do that. We have the side, so we could actually make this go in 2 different directions if we wanted to. We can make it symmetrical, so as you move it up one direction, it moves it up the other as well. Or we can just do one side, which is what we're going to do today. We have the distance in which we want to do it, which we can drag if you want to. You don't get the finite control of typing, but you can drag if you want to. Like I said, I believe I was going to do 0.5. And we have a taper angle. Let's see what the taper angle does. So if I rotate this, you can see that it is tapering the extrude to an angle. So if I do it the opposite direction, it comes in, right? And if you want to make your nail have a type of object or taper, that's perfectly fine. You go ahead and do that. And at the bottom, this one's extremely important. It will default to whatever it thinks is the thing that you are trying to do. So if there is nothing around this object, the operation will typically always be new body. If there is an object intersecting with the object that you just made or extruded, it will try to join, or it will try to cut. The cut will, we'll do that in a second, but the cut will literally cut a hole of the shape of the object that you are trying to put into the other object, okay? And the last two are new body and new components. Components are just bodies with extra features and things that we will edit with in the future. So here we go. So only thing I change, here I'm going to go ahead and do it again. So extrude, select the profile that I want to extrude. I don't change anything else except for the distance, which I put at 0.5. Everything else is default. I'm going to click OK, and now I have my object. I hope everyone can keep up with that. Not too bad, not too hard, all that good stuff. So a nail typically has a nice spike that goes up, so we're going to do a nice spike that goes up. I want to create something. I don't want to modify or do anything else like that. I'm going to create something. So I'm going to create another sketch, and instead of it being on the origin, which is down here, which you can kind of see through the nail head, I'm going to click on the surface right here. So now I have, if you look very carefully, actually let's just go ahead and draw a rectangle so we can see this. If we look carefully, you can see that the rectangle is on top of the nail head. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that, please. You don't need to copy that. All right, so unless our nail is going to have a square head, which I guess old-timey nails did, whatever. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a center diameter. I'm going to click the center here. Same thing we did earlier. We're creating a center diameter circle. And just whatever to your liking is. So I'm going to do half. Actually, let's do 4. 4 seems to snap right here. I like that. And now we have a nice circle that is in the center of this. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, that's kind of big for a nail head, but whatever. Oh, I'm hitting all the quick keys here. All right, so I can finish this sketch. I cannot finish the sketch. I'm going to go ahead and draw another nail head. So if this was 4 inches, I'm going to do half of that. So I'm going to do it at 2. It's really difficult, again, to get a perfect even number. So I'm going to just type it out. So just 2. Because my default settings are over here and their default units are inches, it's going to default to 2 inches if I do that. If I wanted to do 2 feet, I could just hit a comma. Not a comma. Excuse me. I could hit this and it goes to feet, and if you shift to it, it goes to inches, which its default is, or I can just type in millimeters and it will do 2 millimeters. So you can change this at any time. You can also do centimeters if you want to. It will change, and whenever you actually add it, it will add it as centimeters, but it will show it as inches. So that is rounded up as centimeters. Now I don't want to do that. I do want to do 2 inches, so I'm going to go back to here. All right. Okay, so now we can go back and extrude. So I can finish this sketch. I can go to extrude. I can extrude the center one. I can extrude the top one if I want to. All right. So I'm going to do both, but I'm going to do one at a time so I can show you something. I'm going to do the first one on the outside. We're going to move it up. Let's move it up 3 inches, or 2.5. 2.5 is fine. So look, so one thing has changed. Remember what I said, operation will be automatic. It'll do what it thinks is best for you. Right now it thinks that you want to join this object to this object. Now I tell you what, that's not a bad idea, but if I wanted to, I could do new body. And now if I look at the top left, we have a second body, which is good sometimes because then you can edit that specific body. You can make it disappear. You can do all that good stuff, right? But if not, I'm going to go back to here. Down here is the timeline. We can play with that in just a little bit. But if you don't want to do that, you can create or do join. So now we've joined it. We look over here on the top left. We only have one body. So if I hide that body, it hides the whole thing. Again, I'm going to go back to the timeline here at the bottom. I'm just going to click on what I just did. I'm going to go to new body. All right. So you might have noticed that our sketch went away whenever we stopped that and we did our object. So over here on the left side, where our origins and our document settings are, our bodies are also held here, which we can name if we want to. So this one's called body 2 because I made one just right before that. So the nail head, and we'll just call those. Actually, we're not going to change it. That's all good. So this second sketch that we did, we can click on again, and you can kind of see it through the object. But if you click the eyeball, it will show up, and it will stay there until you uncheck that eyeball. But now we can click extrude again. So I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to click the center. I'm going to move it the camera with shift middle mouse button again, and we're going to move it up. I'm going to create a weird pyramid type deal. Now it's not going to be a huge nail. I'll put it right there. So 11 inches. If you want to if you want to join or follow along and do the same dimensions as me, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to. This is not particularly accurate by any means, right? Now we're going to go back here on the extrude panel on the window that comes up whenever you click extrude and then click on your object. So we have the start again is the profile plane, which is on top of the nail head. The distance, which we just gave it 11 inches, and the taper angle, which we could do this if you want to change the taper angle, see how it's really drastic because it's so far. We're not going to do that, but You can change the taper angle. Every once in a while I use this. I very rarely do this because I would rather modify the object rather than do it in the extrude. But the operation is set to join. So if I click OK, it is now joined this body to this body to this body. So if I go back to bodies, I only have one, called nail head. That is not good. I do not want that. There are very few times where I want something like this, right? So I'm going to go down here back to my timeline at the bottom. I'm going to double click on the last thing that I did, and it will undo it. So I'm going to go back to new body. Okay. So now I have 3 bodies. 1, 2, 3. Goodness. Ridiculous. 3 different bodies for the nail. Now this isn't a very shapely nail, so we're going to do a couple of things. For instance, we're going to make a point here at the top, but real quick, let's edit some of the stuff we have at the bottom. Now, if you remember, like I said earlier, we're going to start everything from the top left to the right. So on the top left, we have design, create sketch, so our create area, our automate, which we're going to skip for now, and then modify. So we'll do a symbol in just a little bit, but modify. So we want to modify a couple of these things. So I'm going to click on the modify tab, and we have quite a few things here. Combine is a good one. It's a Boolean combine where it combines objects together. We have scale, so if we really screwed something up, we could do crazy scaling like this. But if you're on an FRC team, you probably don't want to do anything like that. If you're trying to 3D print something though, and you have a really small object that you took from Thingiverse, you can always use this to scale it up or shrink it. It's honestly the only thing I've ever used it for. Shell, fillet, chamfer, split body, split silhouette, split face, and all these other different objects here. So let's just go ahead and deal with the top 3. So press and pull is very similar to extrude, right? So I'm going to cancel that. We don't want to do that. Fillet. So if I click on a corner, this will round the edge. This is pretty cool. And then chamfer. Also, this will not round the edge. It will give it a nice bevel. I believe that's what's called a bevel. I don't know if you've ever seen anything in real life with super sharp edges like this, but there's not very many things that are designed like that anymore. Most everything, at least to the microscopic level, has some sort of a curvature to it at the end of the day. So we're going to go ahead and do that to our nail as well. So I'm not going to use a chamfer here, but I will use chamfer up here, and I will do that in just a second. But let's do the fillet. So, or fillet, I guess, whatever. So just like you're using Windows or Word, if you want to select multiple objects at a time, you can hold down Control and you can select those 2 objects, or you can go over here and hit the plus sign, and you can hit one object, hit the plus. Oh, sorry. Hit the plus sign, hit that object. Actually, I don't think you need to in Fusion 360. You can just click both objects. And now it says we have 2 edges, and there's no degree of what we're doing here. There's a bunch of different settings here that you can play around with if you want to. If you don't get the amount that you're looking for, you can always change that up. But we're just going to rotate it a little bit. So 0.10 looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You know, this sketch is still here. Remember, like I said, if you click the eyeball after you're done with the sketch, it just kind of stays there forever. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because it's kind of annoying. And there we go. So now if we zoom in here real quick, we can see that the edge is nice and rounded. It's more realistic that way. Not necessary if you're in a first robotics team, because this takes extra time. Sometimes time is the only thing you really need, right? The next thing is chamfer. So I'm going to go back to here to chamfer, and I'm going to chamfer this down. But I want it to go all the way down. So we're going to talk about some of these extra settings here. So if we grab our window and we look at our chamfer, right now we have equal distance, but I want to do 2 distance. I like this distance here because I want it to be on the pointy end, or which will be the pointy end of the nail. And I want this distance to kind of go down all the way to the bottom. So there we go. So now I feel like this is more of a nail that we would want, right? I got my 2 edges, or my 1 edge, and I've got my 2 distances right here. Remember, you can move around with your middle mouse button. It is your friend. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and there we go. So now we have the bottom that is nice and rounded. We have the next bit, which is beveled, chamfered, I don't know, whatever. And now we have the top that we need to deal with. So we could just round this off to a point by using a chamfer. Let's go ahead and show you. So again, we want to do 2 distances. I want 1 distance that goes to a point, and I want 1 distance that makes this more of a nail. We could do that. Actually, yeah, let's just do that. So this is more of a tack, really large, giant, uncomfortable looking tack that could impale a cow. But yeah, there we go. Simple as that. Just using circles, we created and we modified a couple of circles. We had 3 bodies that we put together, and now we're good. So real quick, we're going to assemble this. I know this isn't the typical way that you would do this. You'd probably actually do a Boolean combine right here, where you actually create the object or turn the objects into one object. But let's pretend like this is something we want to do for FRC, and we're trying to combine multiple objects together. So we're going to turn these into components first. So we're going to click on the body up here on the left side, right click on it. Again, if you have a mouse, it's a lot easier. Go ahead and create component from the body. And now we have a component that's called nailhead1. I'm going to do the same thing for the body and for this body. So now I have 3 components. Woohoo! Now with those components, if you click on them, they have different things like origins and all the different stuff that we can that transfer over to other save files, which I believe is the main reason why they're different from bodies. They have the bodies themselves, which you can edit individually. And yeah, so we're going to go from there. So now that we have 3 different components here, we are going to join them together. All right. And I click the join button, another window comes up, and we can go here. So we've got 2 different things right here, position and motion. The motion, which rigid, I guess, is no motion at all, if you want to think about it. We have basically a revolving motion that we can have, a sliding motion, a cylindrical, a pin slot, a planar, and a ball. So these are all different types of joints. So if you think about it, some joints have some degree of motion, some do not. We are going to assume that these have no degree of motion, that they are bolted together, that they are welded together, that they are fastened or glued or something together. And you do not want it to move. So rigid is the motion that we want. The origin is simple, between 2 faces, 2 edge intersection, which you can always mouse over and read this and understand it for yourself. Snap, and then component 2 obviously is the same thing. So we can't do between 2 faces, I don't believe, because we don't have the number of things. Well, I guess we technically could. But we're going to go ahead and do simple. And so I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. So I need to do a couple things. So this is the object I want to snap to, but it's in the center, and sometimes stuff is in the way. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold down Control, and it's going to snap automatically to the center or wherever the object is. If there are multiple things to snap to, it will snap to as you get to them. But if you hold down Control, it'll snap to that object, and that's exactly where I want it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click. All right. So now I have a couple of different things here. So I can attach it to here, which is what I really want to do, right? So I want it to be this object. So I'm going to go this direction. Actually, I don't really have to. See how it's kind of already suggesting, hey, put it right here. So I'm going to. So I'm going to hold down the Control button, go ahead and click. Okay. And now I'm just going to go ahead and click OK, because I'm not going to change any of these offsets. Boom, done. Now you're probably wondering, well, why? Why did you do that? Well, let's go ahead and hit the move under modify and go ahead and move and copy. I'm going to move this object. I know I didn't do anything. I'm going to click OK. And, oh, I clicked the wrong thing, sorry. Control Z, or up here for your undo. Move copy, click the object, move it around. Click OK. Oh, goodness. My joint didn't work. What is my joint attached to? Let's look at our joint real quick. Joints, rigid. Move object. Whoa, that's weird. That's something. What is that? I don't remember that. That's bizarre. All right, so let's undo some of this stuff. Something's not quite right here, yeah? That's bizarre. We're gonna go ahead and delete this join too. Something didn't happen quite right. All right, so let's move this object so we can do this with a moving thing. So move button up here, go ahead and we're gonna click at, and we're going to just click on the object. Basically, we're setting a pivot point when we do this, and I'm gonna click the, oh, come on. Click the pivot point here, set pivot point. Again, hold down Control if you want to snap to stuff. This is not being fun. There we go. All right, now move. Oh, goodness. You have to hit the check mark, and now you can move. All right, so we're not moving. Sometimes our computer has a mind of its own. Oh, we're on face. We want to click on components. There we go. Remember, we always got to look at the top. The top dictates everything on the bottom. Boom. All right, so now, there we go. Move that out of the way. We're going to do the same thing for this subject as well. It's on face. I don't want to move the face. I want to move the component. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Here we go. All right, now I can do this. I'm going to assemble joint. Motion is rigid. The components. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on simple. I'm going to snap to the center with Control. It disappears because it's like, oh, you want to mess with this. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Boom, snap together. All right, that object finally worked. Cool. We're going to do the same thing. So assemble, join, snap to the center. I'm going to go look at this object. Control, boom, snap to the center. It moves over here to show you what the end product looks like. Click OK. There we go. Now everything is joined together. If I now try to move this object, I'm going to move the components. It's probably what was wrong with it the last time. Now the whole thing moves together. Now why do we do this instead of joining them or making them one body? Well, now if we want to, we can actually edit just one body at a time. And we still have it separated, but it works and it moves together. So whenever a team exports this or imports this, because now this is saved, I can go find this file under my, nope, that's not it. That's a tiny Neobot. I can go find the file and I can actually add or drag it to wherever I need to go. I can insert it, and now I have this object with this object, right? And if I need to add more, I can add more, all that good stuff. So that's why we do that. That's why we join things instead of combine things. That's why we assemble things rather than the other way around, okay? So let me exit that out. I don't want to have all of these different things in here. All right, close that window. But that's it. This is the object that we made. We started by creating the sketch. We then created the object with an extrude. We then modified the objects after we created them, and then we assembled them. We put them together. All right, so that's just the first little thing that we can do. I'll come back. I'll make some more, and hopefully we can learn Fusion 360 together.